It gets quite lonely at the top. At the top of a mountain, in a cozy cottage, that is. 61 years in Mineral Town. The town stayed completely the same, but me? Oh, I've changed. The years have shaped me, weathered me down. 6 decades passed. The kids are still kids, elders still alive, blissfully living their mundane lives. It seems they've all forgotten about the farmer who moved to the mountaintops, never aware of the turmoil he's faced to get to where he is today. It's been a tough life, and all I have to show for it are my trophies and achievements. Literal trophies and a list of what I have done. So, you must be wondering, how did I get to this state? Well, sit back and pour yourself another hard drink, 'cause that's just the story I've come here to tell. Welcome back, everybody, to Mineral Town 2020. Yes, this town has changed a bit from back in 2003. It's the same game at its core, but there's been many changes, some subtle, and others not so subtle. But we're not here today to compare versions. I've done that already. Links below and also in the card. No, today, I am here to finish what I've started, to achieve everything Mineral Town has to offer, no matter how long that takes. I'll start from the very beginning, and we'll grow together with the years. I'll even give little review segments along the way. I'm not going to put this off any longer. This is my path, the road that I've chosen. This is my life in Mineral Town. The first year. Always the most humbling in these Harvest Moon's Story of Seasons games. You start out with bare minimums. You're a stranger in town and you're not familiar with the land around you, though that may be different this time around. The familiarity, I mean. Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town is a remake of the Game Boy Advanced Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town, and more Friends of Mineral Town. The elephant in the name, of course, is that the true series is no longer called Harvest Moon, so these games shown here essentially are poor bootleg ripoffs as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that in this video. My point is that this game is a remake. Now, when a company decides to do a remake, they've got a decision to make. What is the right balance between old and new? Is it going to be functionally the same game, just with a fresh coat of paint? Or is it going to be a completely fresh experience, essentially inspired by an older title? Or will it lie somewhere in between? That balance is something the devs will have to decide on themselves, and there is no definite, objectively right answer, so let's keep that in mind when it comes to this remake, or even remakes in general. And I will personally keep this in mind while I write my review. I am reviewing a new game. If someone's never played the original, their only concern will be how the game at present plays. But at the very same time, it is an old game as well, at least in spirit. The ideas, mechanics, visuals, and miscellaneous details are all inspired to an extent by a pre-existing piece of media, and should show respect to the original creator's visions and the fans who supported the finished project. All I'm trying to say is I will keep that balance in mind during my review. But I've been on this point long enough. It's just that you can't complete anything before you start. So how is the start? How is the foundation of gameplay? Pretty good if you ask me. Immediately, you'll notice some quality of life updates if you're familiar with the original game, stuff I've mentioned in my other video, so I won't spend a lot of time on it here, but auto run, diagonal movement, increased bag space, auto bag items, shipping menu, inventory, tools, stamina, and money displayed on screen, friendship menus, there'll be more later. But those are some good features to really modernize the gameplay, and I feel both new and old players will appreciate how this game controls. Okay, foundation is placed, but what does completion look like in year 1? Well, incomplete, obviously. Harvest Moon as a genre is really more about time than it is farming. The whole game is centered around what time is it? What day is it? Season? Year? It really is a story of seasons. Time is everything, and everything happens over time. So what do we have to look forward to in our humble first year? Money. If time is everything, then money is everything else. In any one of these type of games, one thing is immediately clear. You need to make money. You probably don't even know why yet, but that's okay. You've got time. So I'm going to write out a completion journal, and the first thing on it is to make money. Though admittedly, this is a bit of an ambiguous quest. It's not the money itself we're interested in, it's what can be bought with it. So this won't be crossed out until we've purchased everything. So again, we've got time. So, in our pursuit of gold, we get to work. Your first job will typically be growing and harvesting crops, and I'm always intrigued the first year to see what each new season will bring. So I'm adding grow every crop to the completion log. Each season I will grow at least one of each type of seed, and watch what that crop yields. Here's another thing I've mentioned in the other video, but crop farming has seen some quality of life improvements as well. We can utilize significantly more field space now simply because we can walk through our crops. And it must be noted that despite this, the game remains balanced. Pacing is delicate in these types of games, and an abundance of space leading to more resources could easily break that pace. But we're still confined to our limited amount of money to start, as well as our fatigue, not to mention the amount of time and effort we're willing to put in a day. So our next two quests, the power berries and tools. The berries will increase our maximum stamina, and there's 11 to collect as we go on. Admittedly, I don't have the best records of my early game progress, but in my earliest viable save file, I have 9 of the 11 berries. I definitely would have gotten the field berry and the goddess berry early on, and I've got a year 1 screenshot of me cheating the horse race medals. So I'm gonna say I bought that berry. The other 6 will be year 2. To help us out in our pursuit of good crops, we're gonna need good tools. We start out small, but can upgrade at the forge. There's 3 factors here: money, experience, and material. Of course we gotta pay Saibara for his work, but before we can upgrade, we need to level up our experience. This happens fairly quickly if you have an emphasis on harvesting like I did. My main priority was the watering can, cause it's a daily use tool. So the more squares it waters, the better. According to this early screenshot, I had the silver watering can by summertime. There's 7 upgrades for each tool, but before we can do even one, we need the material first. Next quest, the mines. There's a lot to do here. Though I hadn't done a lot my first year, so we'll come back later. For now, I'll just note that I had gold tools by my first winter, and did a bit of spelunking. So besides harvesting and mining, our next source of income will be ranching. I have little to go on here, but I do know I had a cow by summer year 1. My first cow is always named Cowie, a tradition that dates back to my first ever Harvest Moon experience, A Wonderful Life. Though typically I'll get a chicken first cause they're cheaper and eggs can spawn more chicks. So I'll assume I also have Egger at this point, another traditional name. I can't say for sure what other animals I'd have year 1, so we'll touch on this later. I just know I typically add on to my animal family a little at a time. I do know for sure though you get a horse early on. A gift, or rather a test from Moogie. Treat it nicely and he'll let you keep it. It will grow into a full rideable adult horse after 3 seasons. So one of the most notable things about these farming games is our relationship with the townsfolk. This goes for both friendship and marriage. Typically in my first year I will already have decided who I'd like to court. In the original game I've always went for Karen, so I started with her here. But I also took a liking to Ran as time went on. But one candidate isn't good enough. Not even 2. For full completion, I'm going to have to be able to marry everyone. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Friendships take time. And in my first year, I kept it casual, paid close attention to Karen and Ran, and talked to people when I'd see them. And this leads into my next little review/rant. I spent a good portion of the comparison video talking about the old versus new of the characters, but this isn't about individual characters, more so the art style as a whole, something that's been debated since that first trailer dropped. Many people were upset at the new art style, but in all honesty, this is something I don't understand. Okay, so it's a remake, so obviously it's not going to look like it did on the Game Boy Advance. The visuals had to modernize, and there's a few different ways they could have done this. They could go full 3D like A Wonderful Life or Save the Homeland, but that's not the style of this particular game, so that doesn't fit. They could have went for a more hand-drawn style like Tale of Two Towns, and actually, I'd love to have seen that. But that's not what they decided on. They chose this rounded, chibi-ish style. And here's the thing. I'm totally okay with that. In fact, I didn't even think twice the first time I seen it. It's only when I scrolled down through the comments I seen people upset. And I kinda don't understand why. It doesn't look bad to me. But more importantly, this style is nothing new to the series. Not by a long shot. The first game that comes to mind is Magical Melody. Yeah, that one was a bit of a shock back then, going from AWL art style to this. But even that wasn't the first time we've seen it. Harvest Moon 64, which is regarded highly among fans, is the first of this art style we've seen. And when they decided to make a PS1 Harvest Moon game, they pretty much used the same assets. Now the ironic thing is, Friends of Mineral Town is based off of the PS1 Back to Nature. So really this chibi-esque art style has only come full circle. Not to mention there's been games since with similar visuals such as A New Beginning. So I'm not sure why this is such a shock. Heck, Tree of Tranquility and Animal Parade's art styles fazed me more than this. And if you think this looks bad, let's take a look at Natsume's latest attempt. Yeah, this hurts my eyes. And this came out, what, a year or 2 prior? And my point isn't meant to be that other games have looked worse, so this leaves this one looking good by comparison, but I think it looks fine, especially the portraits. I'll admit, I'm not crazy about the field models, but they're not all that offensive, and I'd love to have maybe seen that Tale of Two Towns hand-drawn style and more than just the portraits, but like I said, it's nothing new, and it's fine. Besides, one similar and sort of competitor of this series looks like this. The animals are totally fine, but the people? Personally, this is disgusting to look at. Uncanny, that animation, but no one dares say anything negative about Animal Crossing, so I'll end this here. The Mineral Town visuals are A-okay with me. Not to mention, your precious Mineral Town characters are all a sham anyway. Names and faces copied and pasted, and relationships and occupations are all mixed around. Anne's not a tomboy, she's a rancher who was thrown into a restaurant job without a change of clothes. And a humble baker is now prescribing medications, so really a redesign was overdue. since they didn't feel like doing one in 2003 or 1999, I guess. Sorry. Anyway. So that about wraps up my first year in Mineral Town. There's a few other notable things in my screenshots. Some festivals, Van's first appearance, and that house upgrade, and the Sunsweet flower. I'll go more into depth coming up soon. But this section's already sort of long enough. It is the foundation after all. Year 1 is always the longest year in Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons. It's when everything's fresh and new, when you make the most of every hour of daylight. Work hard now, cause it'll pay off later, and learn the likes and dislikes of everyone in town, as well as all those random cutscenes that take place. So, going into Year 2? Well, Year 2 is a bit different. We've already made some progress, already seen what each season has to offer, already got acquainted with all our fellow townsfolk, and gathered a bit of money. Year 2 is when we can start to push the boundaries, and when I officially started to map out my completion journey. Okay, I'm going to risk sounding like a big nerd for a second, but there's something I've come to appreciate. It's such a satisfying feeling when a game leads you to taking notes while you play it. I don't mean that the game forces you to write stuff down because you'll need it later. I mean that there's a genuine excitement attached that makes me want to keep track of everything. This is my initial data sheet. Forgive the mess, it hasn't always looked like this, but my first big task in Year 2 was to gain the highest friendship of everyone in town. There's two types of townsfolk: normal everyday people and marriage candidates. I've got all the candidates at the top, and everyone else down below, and I've written down a few of their favorite gift items that are also manageable for me to stock up on. 1 gift a day for everyone that I see, and I started out with 3 goals. 1 is full friendship notes from every person. I've indicated that with a star after achieving it for each person, and then I can cross their name out and cease the gift giving. Unless, of course, 2. A red heart from each marriage candidate. Now this counts for everyone, boys, girls, and even secret candidates, even though their heart status is not displayed. You can still tell by sorting them among others on the list. And then number 3, this little symbol is meant to be a gift. You get a little trinket from each of the non-secret marriage candidates after, I believe, their 4th heart event. And this was the most fun of the bunch to achieve since you get a tangible item as a reward. There's 2 other goals for this category that we'll come back to later, but after a gift a day to each person on the list, it didn't take long to gain their affection. Most of my progress at this point was recorded on paper and not in video or screenshot, so the earliest record I have for this, unfortunately, is near the end of Year 2. But this is what nearly a year of gift giving will get you. So you're already seeing I unlocked Van late in Year 1, and that same winter I found out about Kappa. But of course the lake was frozen, so come springtime, I offered him a cucumber and we officially met. Then I pestered him continuously until he coughed up a special power berry. And I'm not sure when, but at some point in Year 2, I unlocked our final resident, Lou. Well, not technically a resident, since she lives elsewhere and only visits once a week, just like Van, making them 2 of the hardest characters to befriend, but not the most difficult, since our old gourmet friend Bon Vivant only visits once a year, so he'll take time. Oh, and we'll come back to old Bon Vivant, trust me. While we're on the topic of characters, I took full advantage of Kai's return by planting a field full of pineapples in summer. They took a majority of the season to grow, but he seemed to like the few I got to him before he packed up in autumn. I saved some for next summer and sold the rest. Man, what a cash crop. Back in spring, you can see the first almost glimpse of my adult horse behind Kappa's head, so we'll check that off. And throughout the year, I added a coffee cow named after my AWL star cow, my sheep Woolzer, strawberry cow, a few new chickens, and a rabbit. My animal family's growing, but I didn't pack them all in the small barn. By winter, I had the big barn, big coop, and an upgraded house, complete with the bathroom, so Gotts sure had his work cut out for him, and that pineapple money helps. Sorry for all the jumping around in Year 2, but going back to spring, we celebrate my first birthday in Mineral Town. I mean, I was here last spring 16th, but nobody sent a letter. This year, we have one from many of the residents, most notably Karen and Ran. Boy, do I have a decision to make, though I still have time before settling down. I won my first mystery flower in summer, then sold it right back to Juan, and saw a fireworks show, this year with somebody. Then won my first horse race in autumn. Also, this season got me my first pet. Naturally, I had to go with the classic mineral dog. Then I got my next power berry when Jeff had it in stock. But the most notable thing to happen in the fall is the return of Cliff. I was so happy to learn that Cliff returns in the remake, since he kind of took off without me noticing Year 1. I learned a few recipes so I could gift him his favorite item, and started working on his hearts. Winter rolls around and Thomas gifted me my first golden stump, and I put the little sprites to work so that I could relax more. I had mostly all mithril tools at this point, and spent a lot of my free time gathering material. Ellen made me a stocking so I could enjoy Thomas claws intruding into my home, and I found my 5th power berry. I made sure to make an offering to the goddess every day, and she gifted me something special. That's one of the 3 cottages you can obtain in this game. A really cool gift. Although you can't really do much with it, it's still impressive nonetheless, though it'd be nice to decorate. Alright, it's about time to return to the depths. So on my way to the mines, I get one of my favorite screenshots of the game.
Whoa, Nelly.
It's a funny one, but it's not my only issue I've had with that horse. The horse is a roadblock. Seriously, all the time I'm having trouble running into the dang horse. He seems to take up more space than he actually appears in, like an invisible shield around him. You can hold the run button to go through him and just about anyone, but it's still an inconvenience, especially when you dismount on the opposite side of where you meant to go. But that is if you can even get off the dang horse. No, I can't dismount here. Can't dismount here. Well, why the heck not? I could have walked to avoid the hassle. Mineral Town isn't that big after all. But if that wasn't bad enough, the little guy has so much energy pent up that he'll ditch you to go wander off somewhere. Can he not stay put? Now I gotta track him down. You can whistle, but he just doesn't have the supersonic ultra hearing that Epona has. Still, I can't deny it feels great to travel around at high horse speeds. Especially since by the time the little guy grows up, you've already seen each location countless times. Alright, where were we? Oh right, heading into the mine. Towards the end of Year 2, I made it a big priority to explore the depths of the mines, especially since I unlocked the elevator earlier on the same year. It's a new addition to the remake that allows you to skip floors in increments of 50, so long as you've physically dug yourself there at least once. It's a great little feature since mining is honestly one of the most dreadful parts of this game, as you'll soon see. So I decided to go for the goddess jewels first. There's 9 of them in total, and they only spawn on specific floors, 1 on each. The elevator certainly helps, but because of the large increments, you're still left digging a good way down. But once you get there, the spawn's not even certain. You could smash up the whole floor of rocks and be left empty-handed of the item you're looking for, which is kinda messed up since you put in the work. Now you're left to leave, restore stamina, and dig your way to that floor all over again. Unless of course you use the save scumming trick like I did, where you save a floor up before the game generates that floor's randomized item spawns. Technically this isn't cheating because it's a function built into the game, but the worst part is, even with the save scumming, it's still a dreadful experience. So much of my time was spent digging, pounding, saving, reloading, falling and reloading. This just isn't fun. Thankfully, I could kind of tune out and keep YouTube running in the background, but it's so time consuming. Look, the goddess jewels are the easy ones. They have a good chance of spawning, but we're far from done. I decided since it's only available in winter, I'd knock out the lake mine. I got my Kappa statue and reached the very bottom with only one Kappa jewel in hand. Not much down there, but I did return to nab an Alexandrite. This gem has a low spawn rate, and is only found on a few floors, the 100th being one of them, but the elevator leads straight there, so it wasn't much of an issue to get. This cool little gem changes color in the sunlight, a neat feature. Looking at my stamina gauge, it seems I've picked up the floor 100 spring mine and the floor 19 lake mine power berries. Now I wanted to knock out as much as the mine as possible, so I went back to the spring mine, dug up the goddess statue, and headed to the bottom to claim my reward. There's only one problem. There was no reward. At least not yet. I thought the travel stone was supposed to be on floor 255, but it turns out it doesn't spawn until year 3, and that's a bit infuriating. I put in all the work to get here, and I'm left empty-handed because the time's not right? And it's not even the fact that I have to wait that gets me. I understand them not wanting you to teleport all over the place early in the game, but it's an artificial barrier in your way. There's no in-game reason behind it. It'd be different if maybe the lower floors weren't accessible yet, because a storm-related cave-in doesn't happen until year 3. Or a person gives you a side quest to fetch the items, but he doesn't mention it until your 3rd year in, or any kind of reason. But no, you can go to the bottom floor all you want. The item just inexplicably doesn't spawn until Spring 1, Year 3. Spring 1, Year 3. I watch the New Year's sunrise and get a little note from the goddess. I got the Year 3 achievement. Oh right, I haven't mentioned achievements yet. There's 35 in total, and they're shared between all save files. I'm not sure why that is, but it comes in handy later. Anyway, I won't bother writing down all 35, but a lot of them can be grouped together. Reach Year 5. Obtain 5 million gold. Catch every fish. Reach the bottom of the mines. Ship every crop 5 stars. Own all animals. Own all pets. Win all festivals. Renovate everything. Confess and marry. 300 goddess gifts given. Cook and eat all recipes. And my favorite, soak in the hot spring for 10 hours straight. So year 3 I was thinking would be the bulk of it all. I'll get the majority of tasks done this year and finish off any stragglers the following. I mean, the 3rd year is usually when these games start to wrap up. The SNES Harvest Moon ends in the middle of the 3rd. 64 also ends year 3. And many of the other ones just kinda plateau by this point, since there is a finite amount of new experiences within each game. So I was determined to make year 3 my year for sure. So I lumbered back to the dreaded mines and claimed what was rightfully mine. This travel stone is magnificent. It's a huge joy to be able to just appear anywhere I want at any time. A definite upgrade to that stubborn horse. This item certainly becomes the most useful in the game, saving you the runaround. But I do have one gripe with it. Maybe it's just me being lazy, but I'm quite irritated it treats my whole farm as one location. Click anywhere in that zone, and it'll warp you straight to your front door every time. Need to go to your barn? You walk. Need to go to the coop? You walk. I have the largest plot of land in the whole town, and only one warp point? Get this. If I want to go to Ellen's house, boom, I warp to her door. If I want to go to Thomas's house, again, warp to the front door. These two are next door neighbors. I can see the other door. It's the same for the library and Basil's house, and they're connected. But my favorite is this. The vineyard has a warp point at the front door. On the very same property is the cellar, which also has a warp point. You're telling me the vineyard cellar is more important than my own barn? But nonetheless, the teleport stone is nice. If I want to see the goddess, I'll warp to the mines. If I want to collect bamboo, I'll warp to the tent. And if there's a festival going on, I'll warp straight to it. Look, I can even cross the lake in springtime, but I guess I should get back to the quest at hand. So my next goal is to finish up the Kappa jewels. They work the same way as the goddess jewels, but their spawn rate seems lower, and they're in the opposite mine. So I go through the whole process, digging, pounding, saving, reloading, and finally nab the last one. Oh, but we're not done in the mines yet. There's more. We've got 6 more items to collect, each on a separate floor. The cursed tools. They're found by digging in the dirt and are separated by increments of 10 floors, so the elevator really isn't of use here. And with these, the mines really take their toll on me. I'm so sick of being here at this point, and the low spawn rates really aren't helping. Just look at this floor, mostly dug up, and it's a large one too. Near the end, I finally get my cursed watering can. I was 3 squares away from yet another reload to try again. I can't accurately portray how time-consuming this all is in the format of this video, but trust me, it's very time-consuming. And you're better off doing it all in one go, since it will take more time to leave and come back, treading the same floors. But eventually, I got all 6 cursed tools. Now it's time to make them usable. You have to be careful not to accidentally equip one of them, cause you'll be stuck with it. So over the next few days, I worked on dispelling the curses. A few of these you have to use the tool a certain number of times, so keep some bodygizers handy. A few have to be blessed by the town's priest Carter, and the last couple, you just have to wait a few days. Okay, an all new set of tools. What a blessing it is. And since the mines are finally out of the way, we can go over more of my Year 3 goals. So in Year 3, I unlocked each season's secret crop: strawberries in spring, pumpkin in summer, and spinach in fall, and planted each accordingly. I started fishing more, something I hadn't spent a lot of time with previously, and started my quest for the legendary fish. I tried out the field trick for the first time so I could continually get that pineapple money. I've got to save up after all. Then in the middle of autumn, I paid Van a visit. He refused to sell me another dog cause I guess I haven't paid enough attention to my first one. We have been training though. Carp, spinach, and then recipes. I really started cracking down on all the recipes in Year 3. There's a few different ways to obtain them, which is important since you can no longer experiment cook in this version. But oh my goddess, is there a lot of recipes. 120 to be exact. 15 of these recipes are gained from the townsfolk, after having 4 notes with each specific character. 16 recipes will be learned at random from watching TV once a week on Tuesdays. 10 recipes are learned from Lou, after various stages of her friendship with you. 5 recipes are learned from Anna in her weekly Saturday cooking classes. 2 recipes are found by unconventional means, fishing and mining. And the remaining 72 recipes must be learned through inspiration. That is, after cooking a certain amount with a certain ingredient, you will formulate your own recipes out of thin air. And this takes forever. Not a Year 3 completion, but a start.
I've come up with a new recipe. I've come up with a new recipe. I've come up with a new recipe. I've come up with a new recipe.
At least in this endeavor, I managed to increase Lou's affection. Almost there. And here she is, forgetting that Forgotten Valley is actually Forget-Me-Not Valley, which is the total opposite. Not to mention she forgot her name's actually Ruby. And here's Duke, much happier after adopting Cliff. Ever since Cliff came into our lives, I've changed my mind about a lot of things. You don't say. I started gathering mushrooms, knowing I'll need them later. Thomas is a ghost. And winter crops. Let's check in with my animals. Not a lot has changed, but I have a new cow, Milko. A standard cow, so I can collect small milk. I'll come back to this. In the back, you can see my first alpaca, Paco. Here, I give a gift to the goddess. Okay. And I've been working on 2 goals with her. The 300 gift achievement, which I sort of took a break from after receiving my beach house. And the goddess collection, in which you give the goddess 1 of everything you can cook. Yeah, cooking's a big part of the completion, it seems. You can give all dishes in 1 day, provided you had them all, but I figured I'd merge the 2 until I get the 300 gift achievement out of the way, since you have to do it 1 day at a time. I don't know why, but this felt like it took well over 300 days. But every day, I'd try cooking a new dish, provided I had untouched recipes, and I'd give it to the goddess. And at one point, I had noticed that cooking once a day counts as speaking with Bon Vivant once a day, which I think there's something poetic to that. Each time I cook, I'm speaking to his heart, his big purple soul. Mayonnaise. Yes, mayo every day. It's the easiest. And while we're on the topic of cooking, I hate it. It's so flawed. So this game added different ranks to the crops. No big deal, because no recipe relies on a specific grade of crop to make a dish. Animal products, on the other hand, something that's been around since the original, count as completely separate items depending on their grade. So look, medium mayonnaise can only be made with good egg. Large mayonnaise can only be made with excellent eggs. So small mayonnaise can only be made with regular egg. Which is a problem, because if you take care of your chickens and show them affection, they will produce good egg or above depending on their max heart. A default chicken has the max heart of 5, which is enough to produce good egg, essentially locking out regular eggs as an obtainable item. So if you want to complete your cooking collection, you need to have a chicken that you don't bother to take care of, so you can get the lower quality egg. Same goes for milk, same goes for wool, and you only have so much barn and coop space. And it's not just an issue for lower grade products. The higher grades have this needless exclusivity as well, which I'll be sure to reluctantly go into later. And that's not even the worst part. There's a few recipes that have to have one specific grade item. You can't sacrifice a higher grade item instead. But there's many recipes that just call for an egg, or just call for milk, which is good. Except, you don't get to choose which grade of product to use. There is a toggle for higher or lower quality products, but this will do all ingredients highest quality, or all ingredients lowest quality. You can't choose which ones, and the very best part, you can only do the absolute highest rank or the absolute lowest. No in between. So if you were saving a small milk in your fridge that you didn't want to use because your cow had since reached their 5th heart of affection, you can't skip it and use the medium milk that you have an abundance of. Unless of course you have no higher quality milk. But if you happen to get the rare spawn X milk that you didn't want to waste, you are out of luck. Alright, that's not nearly it for cooking, but let's simmer down a bit before my next rant. So I do some relaxing fishing and pull up an anglerfish, a powerberry, a squid, and finally a hot spring catfish. How quaint. And I find myself back in the mines. For the last time though, I promise. So this time around, I need to find and collect mythic ore. 6 of them, 1 for each tool. These do not spawn until you upgrade your game. I'm kidding. These do not spawn until you've collected all cursed tools, which I have. And this is the most arduous task that all of the mine has to offer. They're mostly on the same floors you collect the goddess jewels, and their spawn rate is abysmally low. You thought reloading was bad before? Be ready to potentially spend hours gathering only a few jewels. And this is with safe scumming. I can't imagine you being able to accomplish this task organically. Why would they do this? Why would they make the mine such a large part of this game? I've done more spelunking than I have harvesting or milking. There's 255 floors. Times 2! Both mines give you 510 floors you gotta investigate. There's 38 individual items you've got to uncover if you plan on reaching completion. That's absurd. And do they really have to be spread out over half 1,000 floors? Couldn't you condense it down a bit? And also, if you're looking for this many items, couldn't you get a guaranteed drop rate? Especially for the items that are finite in quantity? Like the cursed sickle is only on floor 79. I am on floor 79. Does there really need to be a chance of me not getting it when there's so many other items to find in the mine? Oh, and did I mention pitfalls? They're great when you're trying to go down up to 5 floors at a time, but whose idea was it to put these things on the same floors as these rare, exclusive items? There's no way to go back up after you've fallen, unless you want to exit the mines entirely. So it's really just a slap in the face to the player. Not to mention, there's been times on non-important floors where I'm begging for a pitfall, yet there is none. And the worst part, and I mean it, it's the worst part, your upgraded tools are essentially worthless here. Sure, they save energy, but when I'm on the field, I use my hard-earned, blessed hoe to dig up multiple squares of dirt at the same time, because I had made that progress, because I paid for the upgrade. Not to mention that each tool upgrade already has some affiliation with the mines, whether I found it there, or I found the ore that was used to make it there. So it's not like I have anything left to prove when it comes to mining. So with 510 floors, and 38 individual items needed, you could at least save me some time and effort by letting me utilize the hammer and hoe that I've already upgraded in a more efficient way. Multiple rocks for the hammer, multiple tiles for the hoe. And that would even let us better discern where those pesky pitfalls are when we don't want to fall down them. So yes, 6 mythic ore to upgrade each tool one final time. And one final descent to the bottom to pick up something I had overlooked last winter when I was here. Okay, I'm finally washing my hands of this whole mine situation. It's done. So let's finish out the year. So soon after I finished up in the mines, I noticed that I had gotten Van to full hearts. Let's visit him. It's the 15th of winter, and I want to get a capybara. Where is he? So this dude only comes around once a season to set up a pet shop, and his selection is already limited by whichever season it currently is, and he won't set up today because it's snowing? You have no problem standing out in the cold, but a light snowfall is too much? Okay. No need to rant right now. I just did that in the mines, so I'll save it for later. So I unlocked the Ellie Leaves recipe a couple days later, which is a very important item if you want to befriend Bon Vivant. And lucky us, spring is on its way. I spent Starlight Night with Gray this year, and he gave me a ring. That sounds like a new goal coming up. So there's 7 rings in total. I now have 2. The other would have been the Valentine's Day ring, most likely obtained from Popori a few days prior. 3 of the rings are marriage related, and the remaining 2 seem to be like late game accomplishments. So I'll continue on. Lilia hints at Karen and Rick linking up. But you can't fool me, there's no rival marriages anymore. Good thing too, as far as completion goes, cause I still need time to woo everyone. And to finish off the year, on the very last day, I see that Lou is now at full notes, nearly completing the full list, except for that pesky caterpillar man. So year 3 was, well, it was a long one. I didn't exactly close out completion like I was hoping I would, but I got a lot done. Mainly finished out the mines, got most of the guardian fish, and got a good jump on the recipe list. So what's my New Year resolution looking like? Well, to start, I'll be putting an emphasis on festival wins and the recipe book. Okay, year 4, the beginning of the end. Though I was still unsure just how far off the ending would be. I still had a lot to cross off, but I was making progress. I was hoping to have everything said and done in year 5, but then I came to the dreadful realization that I still had years left to go. To start, one of my main requirements was to be able to marry everyone, and I've made significant progress with each. I had red hearts from everybody, and had obtained each of their gifts. I even had Bon Vivant up in the notes. But he's our biggest roadblock with the relationships. His requirements are a bit different. He needs us to have cooked every recipe, which we've been working on, but also we need to have won 5 total cooking festivals. Now, this isn't like Tale of Two Towns where there's a cooking festival every week it seems. It only comes around once a year. That means you need a minimum of 5 years to marry Bon Vivant. But I'm 3 years down and haven't won once. Year 1, I didn't have a kitchen. Year 2, I didn't have many recipes. And year 3, I was 1 tomato short of being able to cook a sandwich for the bread category. So I'm looking at a minimum of 8 years in-game. But that's only as far as romance is concerned. I was thinking of splitting the Bon Vivant quest into a separate save file and continuing on with my normal in-game life. But then I'd have to redo a lot of the requirements, so I decided against it. I'm also going to need top-tier quality products from my animals for the shipping log, and the only way to do that is to win the appropriate festival. But you see, this game added 3 new types of cows, and we need top quality products from each of the now 4 types. But there's still only 1 cow festival a year, so I might as well do these tasks at parallel. Well, we might as well get to it. To start off year 4, I fished up the letter in a bottle, which grants us the French fry recipe oddly enough. On the 15th of spring I check in with Van, and my pet affection is high enough to buy myself a cat. This one looks a bit like little Theo, so I'll name him after him. And I managed to unlock a series of recipes. Let me tell you, the inspiration unlocks are a headache. You have to use a certain ingredient a certain number of times. I'll use salad as an example. To unlock the salad, you'll need to have cooked 20 dishes using cucumber, 20 dishes using tomato, 20 dishes using carrots, and 20 dishes using cabbage. Which is fine if you have 20 of each veggie lying around, cause you have to keep track of these numbers yourself. It won't tell you how many times you've used each ingredient. And keep in mind, these veggies grow throughout 3 different seasons, so you really have to plan ahead and stock up. And what about actually cooking the dishes? Well, with this one we got lucky, cause once we have all the ingredients, we can cook up 20 veggie juices, and that will fulfill our requirements, but it isn't always so easy. I had an especially hard time unlocking a lot of the late recipes because they require, let's say, 10 uses of green pepper, among other things. Sounds easy, except nearly all recipes on the list that use green pepper also require you to have cooked with green pepper a certain number of times to unlock it. There's 2 green pepper recipes that don't require that very item as a prerequisite, assuming you've already unlocked it by its own set of requirements. And if you do have the recipe, you still need all the other ingredients it calls for, and the appropriate amount for your next unlock. And remember, there's 120 recipes, so your ingredient stock will deplete fast. Ran out of potatoes in the summer? Too bad. You'll have to wait nearly a year to try out that recipe, since potatoes only grow in the springtime. And there's no way to buy anything that you can grow yourself. So this spins a large, tedious web of recipes depending on other recipes, ingredients being used up in bulk, just to achieve an unlock for a whole other recipe, and running out of said ingredients often, cause even with the most careful planning, it's doubtful you'd be prepared to cough up this many ingredients. Remember, for each inspiration unlock, you'll be cooking recipes you already have countless times, and naturally, each recipe requires more ingredients than the one you're trying to use up. This process was made incredibly painful by these two forged items, bamboo and mushroom, since they can only be found, not grown, and only in one season at that. It's surprising how many recipes require these two items, seeing as their spawn rate is exceptionally low compared to how many, say, turnips you can gather in one season. Oh, don't even get me started on X product requirements. That comes later. But with all this cooking going on, I nearly forgot. The cooking exhibition is starting soon, but before that, I've got a quick task to knock out. So I'm heading to the lake mine. I know, I said I'm done with the mines, but this time's different. I just need to head down to floor 9 and do some fishing, since I recently fulfilled the requirements for the subterranean coelacanth. Only one guardian fish left to go. Funny thing is, as soon as I entered the mine, the goddess hit me with this message, which is a bit untrue. This is before I caught the fish, and I, sort of missed something in the other mine. But that's of no concern right now. I'm heading to the cooking fest. So this year's theme is udon. Easy enough. I am now confident enough with my cooking skills and ingredient stock to take home the win. And there it is. So good the man teleported to the mountain. So I finally win a cooking fest. Feels good, but I have 4 years more to look forward to. Don't remind me. Though I will see Bon Vivant for our annual meeting, and fortunately, I've got a gift this time. He is nearly at full notes. So summertime rolls around, and I find myself at the Fetch Fest. This is the first year I have any chance of winning. Just look at the green on the meter. Look at that. Oh, Woofy takes the win. It's funny, it's been probably a year of training, and it's over in seconds. But at least it's said and done though, right? Well, not exactly. Look, Woofy now has a crown from that win, and Theo's gonna need one as well, and I'm still 2 unique pets shy of having them all. So there'll be many more Fetch Fests in my future. At least Theo and I have a year to train. So we're awarded our final Power Berry. Nice. That's 1 quest down. And now we flap onward to the Chicken Fest. I've entered Chicken, my 8-heart chicken, and he bullies the other guy out of the ring. Nice. Another first for festival wins. So now he's gained his crown, and we can finally start to produce golden eggs. I excitedly run to the coop and... that's not gold. You see, there's different requirements for different grade products. I've already went over how regular eggs need less than 5 hearts, and good egg is right at 5 to 7 hearts, while higher grade products are a bit different. Excellent egg is produced at 8 hearts, and then gold egg is produced after a festival win. That is assuming the chicken hasn't spent 1,000 hours outside, which apparently he has. There's no way to keep track of this, and it took me by surprise. But Chicken has skipped the gold egg and went straight to the platinum. This sounds like it wouldn't be an issue. So what? He now gives a better product. But because of this, I am locked out of obtaining a golden egg until I get a different chicken to win the festival. One who has hardly seen the outside. There's 2 things I need a gold egg for. The first is the shipping log, and the second, a recipe that requires specifically a golden egg. No higher or lower grade product will do. The problem here is that Chicken will only give platinum products now, and no chance of anything lower. An easy fix for this would have been to base the egg drop on percentages. For instance, this chicken has an 80% chance of dropping a platinum egg, a 10% chance of dropping a lower quality gold egg, 5% for excellent, 3% for good, and 2% for regular egg, or any other breakdown of percentages. This way, you'd still get your high quality items you've earned, but you won't be locked out from the lower ones. Oh well, that's not the way it works, unfortunately. So I'll return in 1 full year and be sure to keep my chickens all cooped up. It's a shame too, it's just so much easier to let my animals roam outdoors. At least we've got our Sprite friends to put to work. So here I have a day in the life footage of Year 4 routines, courtesy of a certain cooking event. So I wake up, cook something, anything to keep Bon Vivant happy, let my animals outside, which I should really be careful about now, but no matter. I collect some crops to save up for recipes before the sprites can get to them. Collect eggs, also to stock. Show some affection to little Theo, who's still just a kitten at this point, and gain any fetch experience I can. Also, I'm continuing to train Woofy, just so I can say I've achieved a full fetch bar. And I'm about to do some more cooking when I get surprised by visitors. So I play a game of Diner Dash real quick, and it's a bit of fun, though there's no significant reward for doing so. Soon after, Bon Vivant is finally at full notes, and I finally start my date quest by giving 1 preserved flower to each regular bachelor and bachelorette, and watching their 2 following date scenes. Summer 20th is the Cowfest, though unfortunately I can't compete. I mean, I can enter, not sure if I'd win, but even if I do, it'd be pointless as you need 8 hearts to produce gold products after a win, a goal I hadn't reached yet. I didn't focus on breeding early in the game, and now I'm sort of kicking myself for it. You see, when it comes to animals in the Harvest Moon games, I'm usually happy with just 1 or 2 of each type. That way I get any unique products they can yield, and it makes each one feel a bit more special. Not to mention it's less work than having to care for 5 of each type. What I didn't realize early on is you are locked out of higher products unless you go through a cycle of breeding. Your default animals will only ever have a maximum of 5 hearts. I understand wanting to reward the player for going through the process and giving them an incentive to do so, but it just doesn't sit well with me that my very first cow, the one I've cared for over 3 years, will forever like me less than one that was born within the year. The maximum heart an animal type can have goes up by 1 each generation. This means you need to have a 4th generation cow before you see anything better than a medium milk. This takes loads of time too. Buy a cow, get it to 5 hearts, breed it, wait throughout its pregnancy, new cow is born, wait for it to grow up, and get it to 6 hearts, breed it, pregnancy, new cow, 7 hearts, grow up, breed it, pregnancy, new cow, get it to 8 hearts, have it grow up, and only then will you get a large milk, and the potential for a gold milk with a festival win. And that's just 1 cow. You have to do this for the sheep, you have to do this for the alpacas, and not only that, you have to do this breeding process for each of the 3 special cow types. That is absolutely insane. It would have been best if I started early, but I didn't think about it. Now I'm essentially punished with this long, arduous process late in the game because I don't have the foresight to know any better. Nothing should take this long, especially not something so basic as higher quality grade products that are essential for what, 2 recipes and a tick off the shipping log? Like I said, I'm essentially being punished for playing the early game the way I wanted to, something that really goes against the formula of these games. But then again, you don't have to complete these games, but why make it so needlessly tedious for those who decide they want to? Oh well, no Cowfest this year. My 7 heart cow is pregnant, and the 8 heart potential newborn will still need time to grow up. so I'm still 4 years of Cow Festival wins off. In autumn, I walk into my coop to find my first X egg. These have a 1 in 255 chance to spawn, and they're also needed for a recipe and the shipping log. But the plus side is, we can create a couple of the X products later. Here, Carter scolds me for going to his backyard, then tells me I'm welcome anytime. Funny that, considering I've been coming here since year 2. Then, I finally get the 300 Goddess Gift achievement. I was halfway there towards the end of year 2, and almost 2 years later, I catch up to 300. I managed to fish up another special item, the Ancient Fossil. Then I knock out a few trophies that have been bugging me for a while. I've been dreading doing these for some time. They're a set of 5 achievements, which require you to build up the quantity of each animal type to its specified number. So what's the issue here? Well, there isn't enough barn space to do this all at once. You can't fit 8 cows, 8 sheep, and 8 alpacas in a 16-slot barn, so you'll have to get rid of some animals. This is something I never want to do in the Harvest Moon games. It's already bad enough when they die of old age. I don't want to actively get rid of them. I form a certain sense of affection for these animals. It's my duty to care for them, and we become a family. Obviously I know they're just models in a game, and I could buy a new cow, give it the same name, and no one would be all the wiser. But have you ever tried to get rid of a Chow in Sonic Adventure? It's a sad situation. Very dramatic. I just can't bring myself to do it. And that's how I feel about selling my animals in Harvest Moon. Call it an in-game empathy, if you will. The same force that allows you to care about, well, anything in the game world, despite it just being loads of code prettied up with 3D models and textures. So with that all said, yeah, I wasn't looking forward to this one. But then I remembered something. Before, I mentioned how some of these achievements apply across the board to all save files. So if I save to a separate file, then sell and buy each animal type, I should unlock the trophies without sacrificing any of my animals. And that's exactly what I did. Moogie really had his work cut out for him today. And there we are. My farm's still in order, and I'm 5 achievements closer to my ultimate goal. The last notable thing in year 4 was the Fluffy Fest. Another one I didn't end up attending. I didn't get very far with my sheep or alpaca or even rabbit breeding by this point. It's another situation where you have to keep barn space in mind, cause going from generation 1 to generation 4 of each animal type is really gonna crowd the place up, even if you just name the metal livestock a number and plan to sell them after. I'll get Fluffy next year. Winter comes around, and I have just enough pet affection points to get a capybara. That comes from a process of talking to, giving a treat, and whistling to a pet every single day. And trips to the confessional can also be a bit of help. So then I sleep until springtime. Starting off the year, I get my year 5 achievement, the last of the strictly time-based trophies. There's been a lot of sleep scumming going on the past 2 years, but year 5 takes it to a whole nother level. Sleep scumming is when you wake up, do your bare minimum tasks like milk your cows, care for your pets, and keep the harvest sprites active and happy with flour bags. Then go right back inside and go to sleep very early in the day. This process is repeated until you reach any desired day or event. My goal was mostly the festivals, so I could keep trying for higher grade products. And I'd keep an eye on my animals' heart meters so I could continue breeding them appropriately. I had to do a swap on my second chicken, Coolchi, so he could go back to producing regular eggs. Trust me, I'll need them. First day of summer, and little Theo wins the Fetch Fest. Now he can wear his well-deserved crown. The chicken clash rolls around, and this time, my 9-heart chicken Goldo takes the cake. I made sure to keep him indoors so he wouldn't skip the gold egg like Chick Hen did. So I turned that gold egg into gold mayonnaise. And finally, I unlocked Platinum Mayo. Yeah, despite having platinum eggs for a full year now, I couldn't make platinum mayonnaise until I've made exactly 3 dishes with a golden egg. Meanwhile, I have the X mayonnaise recipe since I've been cooking with platinum for a year now. Checking the goddess collection, we're nearly there now. Platinum mayo, X milk, and X cheese to go, as well as a few others. The shipping log is looking decent, with the only gaps being mainly higher quality animal products, which is the slow progress I've been working on. Ship a platinum mayo, and gift one to the goddess. 2 steps closer now. Midsummer I meet Van for a new pet. Again, I have just enough affection for him to sell me a new one. There seems to be a 2-season minimum between pet sales, assuming you've done everything in your power to raise their affection points every single day. Which is a bit of an inconvenience, especially if you're looking for one specific pet, since each type of pet is only available in one specific season, and only on one specific day, and only if it's not raining or snowing. Anyway, summer's exclusive pet is the penguin. Real cool, though I'd imagine him being a winter pet. Oh well. Igloo's his name. Welcome to the family. I now own 1 of each type of pet. So now the Cowfest, and Moogle is the winner. Let me show him the trophy, and collect my first ever gold quality milk. Since it is summertime, I should probably try for the legendary fish in the secret forest. I meant to do it last summer, but it completely slipped my mind. Here it is. That's all 7, and the final fish type on the list. The goddess congratulates me, then Zach congratulates me, then my mailbox congratulates me. Twice. Dang, I didn't know fishing was this big of a deal around here. Late autumn, I bring Shi-Ba to the Fluffy Fest, and he takes the win. Good job. Now I get gold quality wool. The first one, I'm making into yarn for the shipping list. I look over my fields, restock on chicken feed, then bring all crops into the new season. My 7-heart potential coffee calf is born. Then I waltz over to the kitchenette to check my recipes. Only missing 4 at this point. Make that 2. Those same 4 are gaps in my goddess collection, so now it's just 2. And I end the year with quite some damage done to my pineapple plantation. Darn. Year 6. Another year we're just going through the motions, with lots of sleep scumming in between. I start to chow down on some home-cooked meals, keeping track of the ones I've eaten. I buy Van's all BGM for extra songs to play on my farm, and here's a dance that's better than the one in the comparison video. Funny thing is, this footage is from before the footage I used in that, so I guess I just kinda forgot how to dance. Oh well. Not like the festivals require dancing anymore. Chicken Fest is done and over with, so there's no point in going each year, unless I want to stock up on trophies. But the Fetch Fest was a success. My capybara Cappy won this one. I remember that it was in the process of training Cappy that this all started weighing on me. Let me emphasize this. Besides the affection for each pet, that we already went over, I had to make sure each pet was proficient enough for a Fetch Fest. There's 1 chance a year, and 4 unique pet types, so I had to make each one count. I would start the training process as soon as I got the pet. In their younger state, they can only train using the ball, and after 2 seasons, when they grow up, I can take them to the beach to play disc. So every single day, spring through autumn, I'd wake up, care for the pet, throw a ball to any that don't have that crown, then teleport to the beach, play disc with the same pets, see that failure screen endless times, and just hope that the little bit of experience they get each day will finally add up enough for a win come summer 1st at the Fetch Fest. Every single day. For 4 years, assuming I train all 4 pets for a win, which is one of my goals. It's insane the amount of devotion it takes for a simple win at a festival that all in all doesn't really matter much. At least the other festivals you can get gold products. Here, you get a power berry the first time, and nothing afterward, not even a trophy. But those crowns do look pretty slick though. But the worst part of this whole process is the dang fetch sign. Yes, I know how to activate the fetch game. No, I don't need to know the park hours. I don't need to know the rules. Yes, I do want to play fetch. Or I don't want to, but I intend to. Why else would I be here? Choose the pet, that's fine. And then, do I want to know the rules? More rules? No! I've done this 4,000 times. I think I'm good. Why not just have the explanation come up if I press start or something? With the number of times you have to train, even for one pet to win, you'd think they'd be a bit more expedient with the whole starting the fetch game deal. What's the worst that could happen? I get a failure? Well, that's gonna happen anyway, cause even when I'm in the green, the pet will decide to just give up at the last second. Oh well, Cappy won. So I only have 1 to go, and that's Igloo next year. So I'll be training all year round in order to collect that final win. Moving on. So this year's Cowfest didn't go as planned. Caffeine is my 8-heart potential coffee cow, and he was supposed to be my next in line for Cow Festival wins. Unfortunately though, he was only up to 6 hearts by the time summer hit, and if I'm not mistaken, they need 8 hearts to even win. Anyway, I tried entering him and he didn't win, so I loaded my game and entered 8 instead. 8 is my 8-heart normal cow, the parent of Moogle. See, where Moogle has stayed in the barn his whole life to ensure he wouldn't skip straight to the platinum milk, 8 has spent a good deal of time outside prior to Moogle's birth. So I was hoping it's been the required 1,000 hours so I could get a head start on platinum milk related tasks. But unfortunately, no. It's also gold milk. So platinum is still a long ways out. See, I have to keep everyone in the barn because I still have gold products to get from my alpaca, my coffee cow, my strawberry cow, and my fruit cow. And I don't want to risk any one of them skipping gold like Chick Hen did. So why not just keep the gold potential animals inside and let the others graze, you may ask? Well, this remake made gathering your animals outdoors and indoors a whole lot less of a headache from the original GBA game, which is awesome. The only downside is the new streamlined way of doing it will not allow you to choose which animals go out or stay in. It's all or nothing. Either every animal goes outdoors, or every animal stays indoors. Very strange decision, considering there's requirements based on how much or how little sunlight each animal sees, as well as the fact that each potential festival win is at least a year apart. So this year's Cowfest was a wash. Oh well. On the bright side, my 4th generation strawberry cow, Barry, was born this year. In the autumn, I continue training Igloo, and my sprites continue working hard. Then I check my mailbox to find that I finally earned the 5-star crop achievement. Each year, 2 through 5, GOTS will have an option to level up your field, allowing higher quality crops to grow. So now that I have my autumn harvest on a level 5 field, I maxed out on quality. The Fluffy Fest starts a few days later, and my alpaca Alpo takes the win, so I'll be getting gold quality alpaca fleece from now on. And that pretty much ends year 6. Nothing really to do but sleep, so see you next spring. Spring, year 7. I take home my 4th cooking festival win. I have been participating in the years prior, but it hasn't really been worth mentioning. Nothing special happened this year either, but I only have 1 win left next year. Igloo is all trained up by the time summer comes through, so he takes a win. And now, I have 4 unique pets with crowns from the Fetch Fest. About time. Daily training for 4 separate years is as strenuous as it gets. But alas, I am done now. Caffeine has his 8 hearts by the time Cowfest starts, so now we have gold coffee milk. In autumn, I finally gather up 5 million gold. I wonder how that's happened. Alright, that makes sense. And then my 8-heart Angora rabbit, Rab, wins this year's Fluffy Fest. Awesome. Gold rabbit fleece. I've been doing the same breeding and keeping indoors process with the rabbits in the coop, but now I can let them out and eventually gain platinum rabbit fur. The last thing to note for year 7 is my 4th generation fruit cow, Peach, has been born. Besides that, lots of sleep scumming. Year 8. This year, in the springtime, I visit Van's pet shop one final time to fill that last slot. You can have up to 5 pets, and there's 4 unique types, so I decide for my final one, I'll get another cat. I named this one Cat Heart, or as close as I could get to a heart. Yet another callback to A Wonderful Life, where I named my cat the very same thing, just with an actual heart in that one. And so, I get the Solomon's Ring achievement. I win my 5th and final cooking fest, just another step closer to my goal of marrying Bon Vivant. Barry wins the cow festival, so gold strawberry milk. And then something tragic happens at the end of summer. See, I had just hit 9 million gold, 1 million away from my 10 million goal, in which I was gonna buy myself something special. But on the very last day of the season, the weather decided to throw a fit and threw a storm at my farm. So I could not go outside that day, which also means that time won't move, and I couldn't do the field cheat. So I wake up, and much to my dismay, my entire pineapple plantation was destroyed. Dang, so close to 10 million too. I was down, but not out. I had another trick up my sleeve to make some cash, so I visit Juan to play a game. This isn't the game I had in mind. So I win. He says he's giving me a prize, and then nothing. Curious? Oh well, I came to play his other game. Ah, here we go, the Apple game. I found a helpful guide which made this game a breeze. But I just had to win a total of 10 times. Win 10 rounds 10 times, totaling 100 individual apple finds. But I finally win them all, and do an extra game just to have that extra flower. We're about to give the other 10 to our favorite goddess. You'd think she could just stick around a bit and accept them all. Here's the 10th one, and she gives me 1 flower in return. Look at the glow on it. Simply divine. So as much as I'd love to keep it, it's right back to Juan we go. 1 million gold. Just what I needed. Gotts is slacking off, despite his sign saying he's open. So the next day, I return. Dang, late to his own business. What's with this guy? So the deal is done. The villa is going to be built in that empty plot. Doesn't look like he's made much progress, but after a few days, we have a new home. Actually 3rd house? Admittedly, it's not as nice as a seaside cottage, but hey, it's still a pretty nice piece of property, and it's got a TV in it. Okay, an end to another year. Sleeping through winter. Year 9. So at the beginning of the year, I decided to rekindle some friendships. I've sort of been neglecting many of the villagers, so naturally, their hearts went down a bit. No issue though. I'll just make my rounds with a rucksack full of gifts, and we'll all be best friends again. Summer starts. And what's that? Yes, I went and did it. I truly didn't want to do a whole nother round of fetch training, but it just wouldn't feel right only having 4 out of 5 pets with crowns. As you can see, the meter is only half of what it was for my last 3 pets, suggesting that maybe I could have spent a whole lot less time training before. Oh well, I didn't want to risk it, as not being good enough that year will only have me waiting a full nother year for the Fetch Fest to return. So Cat's got the crown. Middle of summer, I catch up on some dates I've been neglecting, most notably Marie. It's not that I didn't want to date her, well, I don't. I just never bothered to look for her on the mountain. After the heart event, I return home promptly at 5 before remembering I needed to go somewhere else. So I teleport away and... Zach? What are you doing here? I accidentally found a wonderful little mishap that I'll dub the Lingering Zach Glitch. My fruit cow Peach took the win at this year's cow festival. Nice. And now I'm done with festivals. Not only can I get gold quality fruit milk now, but since we're all gold, we can start grazing again and wait for platinum products. Not long after, my cow 8 starts going platinum, so I can tick off platinum milk and platinum cheese from the shipping list. Being sure to let my animals out on the daily, I head back to bed and collect another platinum milk. I'll have to stock up, not only on platinum, but on all grades of milk. My next goal was to unlock the recipes for X milk and X cheese. To do this, I'm going to need, drumroll, 50 small milk, 25 medium milk, and 10 large milk for one recipe unlock. The X cheese has the same requirements, only I have to throw all the milk into the cheese maker. So that brings my total needed ingredients to 100 small milk, 50 medium milk, and 20 large milk. The medium and large I can deal with, but why such an emphasis on the lowest quality milk? Need I remind you that you only get small milk from a cow that you don't take care of? Milko was producing small milks for a while, but then his hearts got too high, so I gotta do a replaceo. And I continue cooking with the specified ingredients, keeping track of all that I've used as I wait for Milko to grow up again. Here's another reminder of how badly cooking with certain quality items was handled. I need to cook with large cheese, right? But since it only wants to use the absolute highest or lowest quality available, I'd end up using the platinum milks that I need to save for later, so my only solution to this is to just straight up get rid of all my medium milks so that large milk is my lowest grade available, and I don't have to toggle to the highest setting, sacrificing my platinum milks in the process. This was either so unbelievably overlooked by the devs, or it was intentionally sadistic on their part. So with time, Milko number 3 grows into an adult, so I can resume my small milk gathering. Luckily, I knocked out all the mediums and larges out of the way before putting small milk and cheese into that lowest quality spot. And within a few days, I finally unlock the dreaded X milk recipe. Great. One for the bin, one for the goddess, and one left to eat. In winter, I start getting platinum products from my sheep, my coffee cow, my strawberry cow, but not my fruit cow. Strange, as they've all spent the same amount of time outdoors. Also, not pictured, but my alpaca gave platinum fleece a few days later. And that does it for year 9, continuing to cook with small cheese and more sleeping. Okay, year 10, here we go. I can honestly say, this is the first time I reached double digits in a Harvest Moon game. Starting out, I'm still collecting small milk to turn into small cheese. Until I get a medium milk instead. I swear I've only been milking Milko, not even talking to her or hand feeding. And she's not even at 5 hearts. Still 4. How's that happen? See, my guys just stood there, stunned. As a trade-off though, I do get my first platinum fruit milk. The next day I visit Moogie to do yet another swap. Here is Milko number 4. Funny thing is, I had just enough small milk to unlock the X cheese, but small milk is also a needed ingredient for the X cheese, so I still have to wait for Milko to grow up. Again. But that doesn't take too long. I milk adult Milko, save up 2 small milks, and gather all other grades for milk and cheese, then get to work. With X cheese made, that completes my recipe book. I ship an X cheese and X milk for the shipping log, gift the goddess 1 of each to complete her collection, then eat the 2 X products so that counts towards my eating achievement. The best part is, I get all this done just in time for the cooking fest, the one day out of the year I get to see Bon Vivant. My cooking sends him to the stars, and I arrange a private moment with the gourmet. This is the moment I've been waiting for all my life. Oh, rejected. I guess there's more to it than just cooking 1 of everything. I've had my suspicions all along, but just haven't had the means to accomplish every culinary task. Namely, the eating one. I'll get them next year. Actually, I think I know what's holding me up. Those weird seasoned suns. The ones that aren't food yet you cook anyway, and they require some unconventional ingredients. So between the 4 sun recipes, I'm missing some ingredients. First is X wool and X yarn. Remember, X products have a 1 in 255 chance of spawning from a platinum producing animal. And to complete the shipping log with platinum products is not too bad since I can just sleep and let the harvest sprites juggle these odds each day. But when I physically need the X products in hand, that means I have to do it myself. There is no way to have the sprites send the acquired items to your cabinet or fridge. And if they're feeding your animals, they're also automatically shipping their products too. Also, where I can cook up a X milk, X egg, or X cheese, there is no way to cook up an X wool with the same process. So I'd better get to it. I'll save Scum until I get the X wool I'm looking for. To make the whole process a bit easier to read, I decided to keep a platinum wool already in my inventory. That way, if the number changes to 2, I quickly reload. And when it adds to a new slot, I instantly know I have it. I swear, I almost gave up the number of retries and reloads I've done, but eventually, it happened. A few days later, I obtain a platinum rabbit fur from Rabrab. Sweet. Then, I continue trying for X yarn. The good thing about X yarn is it can be made with X wool, X fleece, or X fur. So I return to my barn on a day that both my platinum sheep and platinum alpaca can be sheared to increase my chances of getting an X product. Eventually it happens after tons of save scumming. So I throw that X fleece into the yarn maker, and I'm one tedious step closer to my goal. The next special ingredient I need is the pirate treasure, the only item I haven't fished up yet. And here it is. And yeah, I find myself in the mines once again, cause I overlooked the fact that I'd need a mythic ore for the winter sun recipe. I knew I'd still need one for the shipping log, but also the goddess owes me a mythic ore. This one was unaccounted for. So I'm pounding along and... yeah. That basically represents all my late game feelings. Allow me to rewind. So I pound the rock, and the ore flies up. Does a perfect little arc over my head. I continue walking as I have, considering the number of rocks I've been pounding. You just gotta keep moving along. Just as I noticed what ore spawned, I pivot my feet to turn around. Then, absolutely suddenly, a black hole spawns itself into existence, and my guy stops what he's doing to peer inside, allowing it to suck him in without my mythic ore. What are the chances of this even happening? I didn't even want to return here. Okay. So after a reload or two, I find one fairly quickly. So that's good. So I'm just about to start cooking when I realize I'm short a regular egg. Cluckins has went back to 5 hearts, so I had to do yet another swap. Luckily, when you buy a chicken from the store, it's already fully grown. So I just got to check in the morning, and there we go. So I make one last X egg, and I finally have all the special ingredients. Let's cook. Now that we have all 4 seasoned suns, we can fuse them together to create a goddess tier crop field. Just kidding. These things do absolutely nothing. Though their process does remind me a bit of the community center restoration in Stardew Valley. I mean, these were in the original, but still. The next morning, I head outside to get my congrats. All food cooked. That did the trick. 3 achievements left. 2 require marriage, and the other is for eating. I gather up the needed dishes and gobble them down, meticulously marking down which ones I've eaten, because if you miss just one of them, well, good luck figuring out which one of the 120 recipes you haven't tasted. It turns out I am short 1, but that's only because I'm missing an ingredient. So when autumn rolls around, I plant and harvest the needed adzuki beans. And here we go, Zenzai, the final meal. I once again collect my congrats, and that's another achievement down, as well as another year. So as year 11 hits, I've officially spent 1 decade in Mineral Town. My New Year's dream hints at what's to come, and I check the progress of my shipping log. X coffee milk and X fruit milk have been gathered by my Sprite friends, who I've kept working since year 2. I decided to once again raise friendship points with everyone, since year 11 is the beginning of the conclusion. And just when I gift the goddess a pineapple? Seems a little late, don't you think? I figured I would have gotten this message, you know, when I gave her the final dish? Whatever. She's given me what she owes, the mythic ore. And that's going straight to the shipping bin. After everyone's all friendshipped out, I sleep until the cooking fest. After the show, I once again arrange a meeting. This time, I have proved my culinary worth, and will be marrying Bon Vivant in 1 week. Look at that custard-clad outfit. He's went with the medieval King Pope look this time around. My man's definitely got style. I finally watched those credits roll, and this game is beaten. But I'm not going for beaten, I'm going for completin'. Post-marriage Bon asks me for a nickname. Scrumptious won't fit, unfortunately, so Yum it is. He informs me that he won't be around often. Great time to break the news, after we're legally binded. I get the last 2 achievements, one for getting married, and one for dating every possible candidate, which doesn't award you until you finalize the deal with someone. So that does it for in-game achievements, but of course I've got plenty of my own left to do. Bon Vivant will show up randomly in my kitchen, which is equal parts as charming as it is creepy. So I wake up one morning, and the goddess grants us a child, which I'm basically left to care for myself. Little Simmer is his name. Bon Vivant promises we'll be hard-working fathers. Only problem is he's never around, and I only married him to check off a completion checkmark, so tough luck, Little Simmer. I go back in time to year 11, spring 22nd, and skip out on the festival. The next day, I plan to propose to my actual prospective candidate, but which one is that? Part of my completion journey is to be able to marry everyone. So just to prove that I've done that, here's each wedding portrait. So I can check that accomplishment off, right? Well, there's two that are missing, the goddess and Kappa. To marry either of them, there's extra requirements to accomplish. Catch all fish, done. Find all mine items, done. Confess, easy. Goddess or Kappa treasures, done. Complete shipping list, that one's on track to being finished very soon. So I'll be able to marry them both, right? Well, no. See, I'm totally okay with all those requirements, seeing as these are two deities we're trying to woo. Better to impress them. But there is one absolutely absurd, totally unforgivable requirement to both of these marriages. Okay, early on in the game, the goddess will ask who you're interested in romantically, and you can choose any one of these options. But if you don't choose either the goddess or Kappa right then and there, you will forever be locked out from marrying both of them, no matter how many of the other already ridiculous requirements you accomplish. You will never marry one of them. This question is asked to you after giving 20 gifts to the goddess. 20 gifts! What is that, spring of year 1? Look, I don't even know everyone's name by that point, and I'm expected to not only know who I'd like to marry, but also somehow know just how final this decision can be? What's even the point to this? The other requirements are already way above what your average casual player would achieve. You have to be dedicated to ship every item, to spend all that time in the mines. So a goddess or Kappa marriage wouldn't happen by chance, not to mention how long you'll have to stay unmarried before reaching those requirements. And marriage is typically an early goal for the player, usually happening in year 2 or maybe 3. So why lock the player out? This is the most absurd part of this whole completion journey, a double slap to the face. I'll never marry the goddess or Kappa, but you know what? I'm marking it anyway. I met all the requirements. I'll even go back and play the goddess's little love manipulation game. I'll choose her, and I'll choose Kappa, and if I really want to see the marriage, I'll go on the good old YouTube for it. I'm not missing out on anything. They'll both probably be home less than even Bon Vivant, and he didn't have a bruised ego from a decision I made when I was young and dumb. So I'm marking it with an asterisk. I'm going to marry someone who actually matters. Someone who won't leave me just to go chill in some water. So I propose to my actual love interest, Ran, and she accepts. While I wait for the marriage, I realize something. I never got my ring for finishing all achievements. Multiple websites have stated that that's how you get it, but it turns out that that's all wrong. Good on you, Fogu, for not spreading false information. You instead get that ring from shopping and checking your mailbox. There's a counter each time you buy something, and it resets every 35 purchases. You just have to check the mailbox when that counter is exactly on 35, though you won't have any way of knowing where that counter is. Easy enough though, and I got there after, I don't know, 20 different attempts? 3 rings down, and with my marriage to Ran, we make that 4 rings. But our marriage this time around was more exciting, with the townsfolk actually showing up. And now that I'm married, it's time to prepare for the great sleep. One of the final accomplishments we'll face is obtaining the dreaded mountain cottage, a gift given to us after our 50th anniversary. This one in itself is absurd, since there is no way anyone would genuinely make it to year 50. There just isn't 50 years of content in this game. Heck, I started Sleep Scumming what, year 4? And from that point, any noteworthy events were weeks apart, with just the bare minimum tasks being done every day, and eventually accomplishing something, again, weeks down the line. Whatever, I'm already committed. but there's a few preparations to make beforehand. So the gaps in my shipping log are all X products, but I've got plenty of time for the sprites to get a random X drop while I sleep. But there's one item that won't be done by the sprites: X yarn. The lazy little elves won't use any of the makers I've got in the barn, so I have to procure an X wool and make it myself. So I do the same save scumming technique as last time, shearing both Sheba and Alpa, and eventually, I get it. Straight to the yarn maker, and past my livestock cluster to the shipping bin. I check my records, and decide I've got to do something about these moles. So in your daydreams, it states that bopping 100 moles will get you 1 farm point. A small reward, but why not? Only 75 moles to go. This is the point where it really becomes apparent how often those annoying tired animations happen. It's always bugged me, but now my hammer hits are time sensitive. I've found that you're actually better off to drain your stamina and just work off the fatigue meter. Far less tired animations, and you just restore that as needed. Bop, the 100th mole. I can now sleep soundly as I rest my 50 years. But there is still work to be done. My sprites are still looking for those X products, so that means that once a week, I have to go to their base and remind them that they should be working. I know this whole process is meant to save me work, so there's some laziness already, but they could have streamlined the whole sprite telling dialogue we have to do. You have to speak to the sprite, ask him to help, choose a job, tell him how many days, then confirm your choices. And you have to do this for each sprite and repeat each week. A multi-choice dialogue box, or even better, a sprite work journal, would be much more easier and appreciated. Anyway, I also shower them with flour to keep them complacent. I continue sleeping, and to finish off the year, we get the news that Ran is pregnant. Nice. Year 12, we get good wishes from Dudley. Then later in the season, Ran is given birth. Dudley scolds me. Then little Ace is born, a day before my birthday. Copycat. So the next day, the sprites visit us, and Zack is paralyzed by what he sees. I go back inside, and my wife grants me the birthday ring. I realize that my animals have stopped giving product as my shipping dreams amount to 0, so I buy Moogie out of his whole fodder stock, and ensure the sprites continue working. My child starts to crawl, and I sleep until next year. Year 13. I check the shipping log, and it seems we've got an X Angora rabbit fur. Neat. Ran's excited about the kid walking, something I do every single day, so big deal. And then it's his first birthday. Ran imagines what he'll grow up to be, reminding me of A Wonderful Life when you try to inspire a child's career path. But I know better that he won't grow up to be anything, simply because he just won't grow up. He'll stay a child forever. Year 14? Nothing happens. And then we reach year 15. Nothing happens. Year 16 finds us X wool. Sweet. And then Ran and I's 5th anniversary. Good thing the goddess has been keeping track. Iron, copper, bronze, and then pottery in year 20. Followed by tin in year 21. I go ahead and check the shipping log, as I've done at the beginning of each year, and this time, the sprites have found an X alpaca fleece, completing the shipping log once and for all. I can now sleep easy without having to command the sprites once a week. For perspective, it's been 10 years now that I've been sleeping while letting the sprites look for X products. That means it was a constant process of sleeping 7 days, reading the super interesting book to advance time 3 hours, teleporting to the Sprite hut, going through endless dialogue screens, then gifting them each week to keep them motivated, returning home, sleep 7 days, and repeat, repeat, repeat. Crossing my fingers, an X product will show up in my shipping log at the start of the year, and for the past 5 years, I came up short. So it's a huge relief to be done with that now, and the remaining 40 years of rest will just go by that much quicker now. Beginning of summer, I get my 10-year anniversary ring, and I can sleep uninterrupted. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50th year. Nearly there. This is what the whole process looks like. I wrapped a rubber band around the joystick to keep it pointed right, so I'll always walk straight to the bed. Then I'd continually mash the A button, switching to the B button to mitigate the shipping screen, then back to A button, and did this as the years went by, only stopping once a year to fulfill Thomas's request. Back to bed. For perspective, it takes roughly 10.5 minutes, real time, to do this 1 year. Multiply that by 50, and we get 525 minutes, or 8.75 hours of my real life time simply spent sleep scumming in a Harvest Moon game. Not to mention the extra time Sprite chats took in the first decade. At least I could just autonomously do this as I watched my favorite farming documentaries in the background. Year 55, 60, and finally, year 61, 50 years after my marriage to Ran. I overlook the state of my field. It's a rock farm now, lined with a collection of golden stumps. 60 years of devotion. I give my son some grapes, and await my anniversary. So, after 50 years of neglect, my wife buys a mountain cottage, disguised as a gift. Really, it's just to get me out of the house. I know how she really feels. The map is updated, though I feel it's only proper to walk there. Here it is, one of my greatest achievements. The mountain cottage is mine. It's all I've ever wanted. 60 years this was in the works. Now everyone will see it. Everyone will look at me with jealousy. They don't have a mountain cottage. They don't even have a villa or a seaside cottage. I'm the ultimate Mineral Town resident. I own 4 houses. I single-handedly produce all of this town's exports. No one else has a shipping bin. Mayor Thomas is nothing. I run this town. I am the catalyst, the reason for this town's existence. And it's time for me to collect my reward. I take a quick snapshot and head inside. The calendar hides one of the secret truth jewels we need for, well, I'm not sure what they'll grant us, but whatever it is, it's the ultimate goal. I grab my remaining jewels and head to Thomas's house. I check his fridge and nothing. Strange. I have the other 7. Oh, right. I'm supposed to have 8 before collecting the final fridge jewel. So which one did I miss? Turns out, the forgotten jewel can only be found around New Year's, so I'll have to go yet another year. Oh well, I'll get to it. But first I'd like to add a couple finishing touches to the farm. So I realized that my 3 trees, though sufficient enough for resources, aren't the maximum my farm can hold. So I go to buy a few more, just to have them, and Deluxe fridge. How did I never realize I was missing a furniture upgrade? I'm not even sure when this unlocked. Funny thing is, I had a whole complaint written out about the limited fridge space when completing recipes, and how it was odd that you were granted more cabinet space than fridge space. But this section obviously had to be scrapped. I'm surprised I never thought to check. This is also why, in the comparison video, only the yellowish fridge is shown, though I did include a correction. Anyhow, biggest fridge and 2 trees are purchased. Let's check them out. Cool. These ones look much larger, and that fridge inside looks a bit out of place. Maybe that's just because I was so used to the previous for so long. Ironic, I couldn't get into Thomas's fridge this year, but I got one of my own. Back to my mountain lair to continue hibernation. New Year's Day, year 62. I head to the villa and watch some TV. This is how that missing jewel is obtained. There will be a broadcast for a New Year's quiz show that's all math problems. Nothing a calculator can't fix. I guess I was too excited when I bought this villa to remember about the jewel, but I got it now. Out the TV it comes, at long last. Time to rummage through Thomas's perishable items for the final truth jewel. Thomas is alerted, but it seems that he's expected this to happen. He hands over the ultimate treasure, which is the truth treasure. What truth does this little trinket tell? Well, it tells me a numerical value for my fatigue. Yeah, that's it. Not the most useful information, especially since by this point in the game, I've basically done everything. There is one more quest I can think of, though it hardly requires any fatigue. To obtain my final ring, I must run continuously with my pedometer until the goddess grants me a reward. Sounds tiring, though my character feels no strain. No, that strain is only on me, as well as the Nintendo Switch. But anyway, rubber band it up, or if you have Joy-Con drift, simply set the controller down. Then you wait, and wait, and wait. Then wait some more. Okay, I was hoping I misread this, or it's another mistake like the achievement ring situation, but in order to obtain this ring, you need to have walked 10 million steps. 10 million. To put this into perspective, before my endless run, I had 409,964 steps. That's only 1/20th of the way there, and I've done practically everything imaginable that can be done in this game, so there's absolutely no honest way a player would achieve this. It's reliant on you propping your controller up and simply not playing the game, or any game rather, at least not on that console. According to Fogu, this process will take 65 real-time hours of exclusively running in place. Why? What's the point in all of this? It's not incentivizing playtime since you're literally not playing the game during this whole process. And what's it prove? That you can use a rubber band and neglect your console? Sure, I could have this going throughout the night when I'd otherwise be asleep, but why? Why risk the wear and tear on my Switch? It's so mind-bogglingly pointless. I can't imagine why this would even be a thing. This isn't the only game that's had the whole running endlessly thing, besides the fact that it was in the GBA game, and I couldn't imagine keeping the D-pad pressed down this long, not to mention battery life. But there's been games with, say, an experience ring that gives you experience for every step. Makes sense why you'd want that. But here, in a farming game, 10 million steps. No, 1 million would be reasonable enough. You still wouldn't get there on your own, probably, but it's not that long of a stretch to reach. So that's what I went for. What's the significance of 10 million anyway? Seems so arbitrary. 1 million is a clean and respectable number, and it still took forever. Sure, I didn't have to do anything, but still. Here it is, 1 million steps, praised by the goddess. And you can keep the other 9 million, because I still feel accomplished. I don't need your pointless say-so attached to arbitrarity. I'm still obtaining my ring. I'm still the master of my own destiny. With a slight bit of magic, there it is. After all, it's just a visual reward, so visually it is mine. I have walked 100,000 steps, so I have collected what is owed. You cannot hold me back, goddess. I am destiny. I am in control of everything. The world will perish at my behest. So, there you have it. That is my story. The tale of a man who has tried to gain everything, but in the end, it matters more what he's lost. Sure, I won the festivals. Sure, I got a cottage. 3 of them, actually. As well as a ginormous farm. But at what cost? The goddess labels me divine, but I feel like no god. Just the shell of a man. My child never grew up. My wife no longer loves me. And all my old friends have forgotten. But I can still change. I can still be forgiven. I can still be a friend of Mineral Town. So I decided to turn it all around. No more running from my problems. No more being greater divinity. I'm shooting for the top. I'm going to win back my friendships so I can get those farm points back. My farm degree has really taken a hit since my friendship points went down. The villagers have lost all fondness of me. I guess 50 years of not speaking to anyone will do that. There's only 4 that like me whatsoever. My wife Ran, who has lost all love for me, but still has a lot of friendship notes. Seems kinda backwards. I'd think her liking for me would have dwindled, but she'd still have love for me deep down. My son Ace has half his notes. Then again, the kid wouldn't know any better. Thomas still holds me in high regard. I mean, I have saved him from embarrassment from the next mayor over for the last 60 years. And then Kai. Guess he holds our pineapple summers rather fondly. And though I've already got my achievement for having everyone's full affection at once, I figured it's only right to make amends. 205 points isn't gonna cut it. I've got to share the wealth. I gather up the remainder of my belongings and hit the town. I visit Thomas and Moogie and... what? No, don't tell me. Harris is Thomas's son? How have I never known this? My whole playthrough of this game, and the original, I thought he just kinda mooched off the mayor. Figured Thomas was a single man with great responsibilities in town, and Harris was a humble, yet misunderstood policeman, and they just figured they'd be roommates. How's he his son? I figured they were around the same age. You'd think Harris would have mentioned his father as the guy in charge of town. I'm not sure he's ever mentioned Thomas. Anyway, that's a mind blow right there, but I must move on. There's plenty more people to re-befriend. Not long after, I've made progress, and got up to 652 friend points. Might as well get the full 1,000. I also wanted to see how many overall points I could get, but it wasn't looking too good for the other categories. The animal one was close. I bought a new alpaca, hoping it would increase the meter. It did not. Apparently more festival wins, more hearts, and more frisbee meter percentages will raise those points, though those seem a ways off still, so I didn't bother. Fishing I attempted, but I would need to fish up thousands more fish for any progress. Not to mention the max size fish were so rare in my trials. So couldn't be bothered. Cooking at this point would only go up from each festival win, so I was 7 years off. Again, couldn't be bothered. And main character? Basically only hitting 9,900 moles or playing 148 more years could net me some points. So yeah, ultimately, I couldn't be bothered. I finished off friend points after seeing a couple of the late game scenes. My final recorded farm degree sits at 9,431 points. Pretty respectable if you ask me. Enough to become Grand Divinity. I'm happy with that. I know I titled this Full Completion, but I've got to take some liberties for my own sanity. We don't want to level the town again, right? So 10,000 farm points, 10 million footsteps, and goddess/kappa marriage, I'll just mark under close enough. As for everything else, well, it's nearly complete. Guess I'll leave you with 3 final bits of completion. 1. The quiz book. I've had this for quite some time, but never got more than 3 answers right in a row. Thankfully, there's a guide for these things. 100 questions later, and... Really? That's it? No prize? Bogus. Only one thing to do with this dang book. There. 2. The Sprite statue. Yeah, this one's easy. It's just that I never really felt like going back for it. But I go down, past floor 160, and... well, that was quick. The goddess confirms that that's everything, and I put the little sprite in his rightful place. Did I ever mention I want more shelf space? I've certainly got the room. Also, I haven't mentioned my want to be able to decorate the house more, and especially the 3 cottages I have. Oh well, I'm not crazy about decorating anyway. Guess that's why I didn't really enjoy this game much. For number 3, I think I'll end on a more poetic note. For one night, every 5 years, there's a phenomena in the sky that we can witness. I could have done this long ago, but I didn't know about it until the very end. But let's just think about 5 years and all that can be done in half a decade. How much can change? And as we climb this mountain, let's look back at our lifetime in this village. All of our accomplishments. We proved ourselves to Thomas. And more importantly, we've proved ourselves to Gramps. He'd be proud to see his farm now. How many shooting stars do you think have passed by here? And how many lone farmers have made a wish? I could wish for easier work with my animals. I could wish for profits. But I think I'll do one last favor. One final wish. This one is for my friends of Mineral Town. May we stay friends forever. Hope my wish comes true.
And there we have it. I said about all there is to say. Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town, was one of the most tedious experiences of my life. But you know what? Also one of the most enjoyable. I know I had a lot of complaints, and they're genuine, but there's just something about this game that's had me hooked from the start. Modern Bokujo in the classic formula. It's really breathed new life into this already vibrant game. My initial time spent with this was 290 hours. And with all the editing, gathering footage, and testing ideas, it came to over 365 hours. And I enjoyed most of it. I thought Tale of Two Towns was the most tedious in the series for completion, but maybe this one's taking the cake. I don't know. I still have to revisit Kanahana and Bluebell and finish that review. But to be honest, that won't be for a while, after all I've done to Mineral Town. When I first heard there was going to be a remake for Mineral Town, well, I was excited, but also a bit surprised. Friends of Mineral Town is definitely a popular game, and it makes sense that after the name change, Marvelous would want to really put their name out there with a much beloved title. But personally, I think that A Wonderful Life would have garnered more attention. Hopefully they do that one next. Or Magical Melody. Or even Hero of Leaf Valley. Either way, I'm not getting sick of farm life anytime soon. So let's see what the future may bring. Thanks for sticking around. Moo. Moo. Oh, you gotta go, Theo.